The second Witcher is the least popular part of the Legendary series. Although it had much better mechanics than the first game at the time of the release, like the combat system, animations and even nice graphics. But this part feels quite soulless, and the story isn't as strong even though there are some good moments. Witcher 2 is not a bad game, but if you played it, you probably felt that something was missing and that the game was a bit stripped down. This feeling isn't a coincidence, because the game was originally meant to be much bigger and more detailed. It's obvious from several things, like the complex political relations and side characters' plots, or the maps in different parts of the game, where you often did just few quests and then there was nothing else to do, even though it felt like the area were meant for a much bigger game. You often find empty locations, houses, alleys that feels like they were supposed to be used for something more. This is most noticeable in the Loch Muin area, which is almost completely unused. In the whole area there are only about 4 or 5 quests, which is very little for Ruined City where major politician events take place. Also, the area around the Kaedweni camp, which is quite large and has probably the nicest forest in the game, had potential for much more content. But the same goes for other areas too. Many places feel like they were originally bigger, but later blocked off with meshes to make the space smaller. The game is also very weak when it comes to finding loot and items. Most of the time you find useless materials that only take up space in your inventory, which suggests that a more complex crafting system was probably planned. But in the final game, it's barely present. You constantly find only useless junk. And unlike Witcher 3, which rewards you for exploring hidden corners with treasure, in Witcher 2 you often get a very small reward. Like after clearing a whole cave of monsters, you find a chest with 10 oranges. You can find a few swords in the game, but they are very rare. And sadly, the game isn't balanced even in its better parts. For example, the combat system is interesting, the sword fighting choreography looks great, and especially like some of the combo animations, but the system is unbalanced. And the worst part is when an enemy blocks your attacks. Geralt then makes a slugging slow motion animation, which doesn't feel right, especially with the missing dodge mechanics. The movement mechanics are also bad. Your character can only climb obstacles at specific spots where you can press a key. Because of this, you can't take shortcuts, even over small hills or ledges, and you are forced to go around the whole area again and again. This is most noticeable in the forest around Lobiden. The game has many flaws and was released in this state mostly due to the budget at the time. CD Projekt Red wasn't famous studio yet. They didn't have enough money, time, and they were at risk of going bankrupt. They were still learning how to create open worlds and were also modifying their engine. I understand this and don't want to criticize the developers. I believe they had limited options. I believe this is mainly because once the game was released and they could afford more, they created Witcher 3, which is still the best RPG of all time and my favorite game. They learned from all the flaws and made a perfect game. I still keep thinking how much better the game could be if modders and the community took over, just like the communities making remakes for Bethesda Elder Scrolls games. There's a good foundation here, and improving the game wouldn't require an enormous amount of work. It could start with the community adding a few graphic mods. A light and texture upgrade would be enough, since the game still looks nice. Then the combat system could be rebalanced, and more loot added to hidden chests and crafting. These are extremely demanding mods, and even just this would help the game a lot. Then the character movement could be slightly improved, and the map slightly adjusted to feel more alive. Some areas added, some removed, to let the world breathe more. After that, modders could just add their own interesting quests, like Witcher Contracts, which wouldn't need to affect the main story at all. That would make it much easier, since nothing in the original game would need to be changed. These few changes could greatly expand and improve the game. For example, Loch Muin could silently have 15 quests instead of 5, which would greatly extend the gameplay. Maybe even some new skills and PCs or enemies could be added. The game has plenty of space for that. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you enjoyed my content, a like or subscribe would mean a lot, and have a great day.